Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys? Welcome to Castcast. I'm your host, Casty Streeter. It's good to be here. Um, Looking forward to week 18, of course, of the NFL season, which I don't think could be any crazier. You know, looking at these games, I mean, some of them are a little bit less. It seems to me It seems to me here this week that we have a couple of, I guess, pretty ridiculous, things to happen. We have, the Saturday games, a couple of those that are doozies, to be honest with you. And for the most part, both the Saturday's games aren't going to decide completely what is going to happen. But I think that, it'll be an exciting week, to say the least. I'm kind of just going to make my calls from full cam screen this time, you guys. If you're here watching, I'll probably do my own little small spiel. I'm actually, dash that. I'm going to do my own small spiel on each team, and then we can kind of talk about what we think. Sorry, my mic seems to be a little loud. There we go. Then we can kind of think about what's going to happen. Sorry, I'm a little parched and dehydrated. I was just outside walking around in dry Colorado. Anyway, starting off with Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Baltimore Ravens. As most know, if you did not, Baltimore has already secured the 1 seed for the AFC. Because of this, they are resting some players. Lamar Jackson, of course, being one of them. I think that he more than likely has probably already kind of secured the MVP with his play, to be honest with you. I don't think he needs to play this game. Obviously, going to 14-3 would be impressive, but it's like 13-4, still very impressive. 3 losses in game to teams where they were neck and neck in those losses. I think that they really only suffered, 1 loss or something that wasn't that close early in the season, but they have undeniably made themselves the best team in the NFL. Looking at Pittsburgh and the Ravens, I believe Pittsburgh, their way in is they obviously have to win. They're on the bubble right now. Looking at NFL.com, they are on the bubble. And clearly the only wild card spots are the Bills and the Colts. The Colts hold an edge over the Steelers, who the Colts play later in the day. If they win, they have a 99% shot to get into the playoffs, greater than 99%. I guess I'm not even sure what could knock them out if they win, to be honest with you. Seen as that, the Texans wouldn't be able to be in, and I guess the Steelers, maybe if some other things play out, I have no idea. If the Colts lose, they have, less than a 1% chance to get in, type of thing. But yeah, the Steelers, 9-7, along with the Texans and Colts, who can get into the postseason. I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. But yeah, Steelers, I kind of expect they're going to be rolling with Randolph again. I think that he's been playing just fine, and I think that, knowing they need to win in order to get in, or Rudolph. Why did I say Randolph? Oh my gosh, I'm so out of it, you guys. I'm sorry. But yeah, this is a team that is very, very healthy. Rudolph, Harris, Deontay Johnson, Pickens, and Allen Robinson, and Freiermuth. I think that, it's a team that is very healthy offensively, with only one person with a labeled injury here, Alfonso Graham, the running back, who isn't even, I think he's not even one of their first 2, and then their defense, who, Yeah, DeMonte Kazee still suspended. I don't think that's really affected them all too much. Minka is questionable, but they've played fine without him. And, overall a defense that is really healthy. And, as long as they have TJ Watt playing, I wouldn't bank against this defense if he's playing to his capabilities. So because of that, I am going with Pittsburgh in this game, even though they're the visiting team, just because it's a much more dire situation. And Baltimore is ultimately just trying to be as healthy as they can. Given their guys essentially 3 weeks rest because they have the first round playoff bye being the 1 seed. So the Steelers are probably going to be able to win this game. It's not going to be like how we're used to seeing the Ravens and the Steelers match up, because these two teams have always been very gritty and very defensive based in the past, which I would assume would be the same kind of way. If all the starters were playing, and I would definitely go with Baltimore, but they aren't looking to win. They're looking to get healthy. And I don't think Harbaugh wants to risk anybody either who is playing, because you don't want to derail yourself and leave it up to chance that you're a wounded warrior going into the playoffs, even with a bye. So Steelers win. Going on to the late game on Saturday, we have Texans-Colts. Obviously, both teams 9-7. The Colts hold the tiebreaker over Houston, which at this point doesn't mean anything. Even though they, I'm pretty sure the Colts beat the Texans earlier this year. And the Colts' last 5 has just not been pretty. I mean, they beat the Raiders barely. They lost to Atlanta in a game that was like, man, what happened to them? They did beat Pittsburgh 30-13, but that magic seems to fizzle out. They lost to Cincinnati 34-14. So their defense seems susceptible to giving up a good amount of points. And I think that because of the way the Texans played last week against Tennessee, that this is a team that is rallied behind Stroud, and it's going to be a game that Houston takes. They do list Houston as the favorites here. CJ Stroud, to me, is just way too good of a player. Looking like he's going to have possibly like a 24 TD, 5 interception rookie season with over 4,000 yards and a pretty insane completion percentage, But yeah, I think he's going to finish strong. I think he's going to be the maybe not the undisputed rookie of the year, just because Puka's year is also pretty magical for a rookie wide receiver and a late round pick. But I fully expect the Texans to take care of business in here, and hopefully they can really contain the run, which I think the strength of the Colts in this game, where Zach Moss has been doing really well, and Michael Pittman's been doing well, but I guess I'm wondering if he's still on the injury report. I don't really think it matters if he is. Let me see here. If he isn't playing, let me see. So Michael Pittman's playing. Same with their other 2 starters, Alec Pierce and Josh Downs. But I feel like, with their line being pretty banged up, you can definitely take a look at them and say that, they're probably not ready to match up against the Texans, who, Singletary's been doing really well late in the year. Nico Collins, of course, has been doing really, really well. And, it kind of sucks. You have Robert Woods, who's questionable, but to me, he's one of those anchors, those veteran anchors for Stroud that has been showing up more and more later in the year. And overall, I think that this defense is, pretty underrated, and, will be ready to match up against the Colts. So that's why I'm going Houston. The score prediction for this game, I kind of expect it to maybe be close potentially, but I am going to go 27 Houston to 17 Indianapolis, just because I don't trust the lackadaisical kind of stuff that the Colts have been having issue with lately, where it's been every other game that they've been having problems. Moving on to Sunday's games, we have Tampa Bay and Carolina, a game with playoff implications as well. Carolina not playing for anything, obviously. It is in Carolina, where, Carolina's got their 2 wins. They're 2-5 at home. But the Buccaneers, I really do think that Baker is going to splash back. Last week was a kind of disappointing loss for them after they were on a very fat win streak. They did barely beat Carolina at home last time, which is strange. But that was kind of before this offense seemingly found itself and scored 29, 34, and then 30. 3 games in a row, and then last week had their stutter against a New Orleans defense that I think is definitely better than Carolina's defense. And Carolina, as we know, got shut out last week. I think that Tampa Bay's defense can definitely do probably just as much as Carolina's Jacksonville's defense did against Carolina, because I think that they're just a bit more consistent. I think that, some days we look at Jacksonville and they're like one of the best teams potentially, but then other days it's just odd that they are not the best team. So, yeah, I'm looking at Tampa Bay winning this, of course, securing the division, because it's winning in for them. Simple. It is a division rival, like most of these games in the final week. Maybe there isn't even a single game that isn't a divisional matchup, to be honest. But the NFC South here, I fully expect Tampa Bay to win. I'm gonna predict that they score 24, and Carolina, they're gonna put up like 10. 24-10, even though they only give it a 4.5-point spread for this game. Moving on, we have Cleveland and Cincinnati. Cleveland has already secured a spot, and Cincinnati is not fighting for a playoff spot. I think that, it's kind of interesting. They do give the game to Cincinnati, I guess. The Browns are sitting Joe Flacco, so that's probably why. I think that Browning, he's going to come out and he's going to be slinging it, type of thing. Amari Cooper, they're also resting. Mike Ford, the cornerback, is out. They're resting. T. Higgins is doubtful for this game. Not really good for him, who's looking to test free agency. He probably still gets paid either way, just because he's had some big moments this year, and I think that everyone knows that T. Higgins is a good, clutch, physical wide receiver that is very dependable. But, looking at the Bengals, you've got Browning, of course, starting. They lost a close one last week against Kansas City that I know that they probably wish they had back, because it's ultimately what took them out of the playoffs. But, yeah, the Browns are pretty hot. They might be able to ride the wave with their defense and still beat Cincinnati, but I'm having trouble, I guess, thinking of who I would predict to win this game. I'm just going to say the Browns, because I really think, or maybe I will say the Bengals, just because I think that, they're not going to be resting their starters. They're going to be playing this game hard, and Cleveland isn't going to be playing anybody that is, they're not going to be playing anybody. Like Myles Garrett isn't going to be playing. Zadarius Smith probably isn't going to be playing. They're probably not even playing Denzel Ward. And they're probably not even playing, is it a Woot? I'm trying to remember his name. The linebacker that's in his, second year and doing really well. Gosh, I can't remember his name. I'm sorry, but Yeah, their young linebacker that's not Sedarius or Garrett that's playing really well. They're gonna rest him, so it's like you're not gonna have that much star talent. This is kind of another thing that it's like they're resting because they need to be ready for the playoffs. Give their guys 2 weeks because they know that they're probably gonna have to go in and they're gonna have to play. They're gonna have to play the Ravens, assuming they make it past the wild card, which I think they will because they're the second hottest team right now in the NFL. But yeah, Bengals win. I'm gonna say it's gonna be low scoring, like 17-14. Could be otherwise, but who knows? The backups on the Browns might try to prove that these guys could be starters elsewhere, because that always seems. I feel like that happens whenever you give backups a chance to get significant playing time. That's something that can happen. Moving on, we have Minnesota and Detroit. Minnesota can still make the playoffs with an 8-9 record, which is nuts. They need a lot to happen for them, and they just, obviously got stopped by, the Green Bay Packers, and the Lions just got robbed against Dallas. So I really don't think there's a chance in hell the Vikings win. And the thing is that Detroit can still play for a higher seed, I believe. Let me see this. Because, yeah, they're the same record as the Cowboys. If they happen to win and the Cowboys happen to lose against Washington, which I don't think is happening, and the Cowboys are obviously, they're playing for, the 1 seed potentially, which isn't. Well, actually, no, they're not playing for the 1 seed. I'm sorry, but they're playing to hold their spot, which is kind of one of those where it's like, do we really care? They're going to at least get a game at home, and it's like, where they're very, very dominant up until, they played the Lions last week, where they should have lost, to be honest with you. But looking at this game. Looking at this game of the Vikings in Detroit, they have a ton of injuries for the Vikings. Like Mekhi Blackman, cornerback, out. Brian O'Neill is out, which is a huge blow for them. Byron Murphy Jr. out. This is at Ford Field. But yeah, I fully expect the Lions to come out and kind of take their anger out on the Vikings. Take their anger out on the Vikings. So I'm predicting Detroit 31 to 17, being optimistic about the Vikings, assuming that Detroit doesn't pull out their lockdown defense, which, it was pretty lockdown last week besides one blown, to CD. And then the rest of the game, I mean, they should have won that game. I'm just going to say it on more than one. And it wasn't just because of the penalties and the failed 2-point at the end. It overall just didn't look very favorable for the Cowboys. They lucked out, in my opinion. But yeah, Detroit beats Minnesota at Ford Field. Moving on, we have the Jets and New England. The Jets and New England obviously not playing for anything. Who knows? It seems like Belichick. We obviously have Bailey Zapps out. Oh, interesting. So I didn't know this. Zach Wilson is out with an injury. Let me look at this real quick. So it means that they are starting, Simeon. And then Brett Rippon is, their backup. But yeah, Zach Wilson is out. We all know that Breece Hall has been doing really, really well. And, looking at this team, they really have to have something to kind of, I wouldn't even say build off of, but they still need to kind of put it together, to show that next year, we could potentially be back with Rodgers, revamp the O-line a bit, and I think that this team is, could become dangerous next year because their defense is legit on the Jets. But New England, and I mean, they just, last week they just didn't really seem to care against Cleveland. They barely won against Washington. They got stopped by Miami. Miami kind of makes sense. Cleveland maybe makes a little bit of sense. Washington doesn't make any sense. And then they beat Houston, though, and held, Houston. Obviously, they didn't have CJ Stroud for that game, but, then they lost to Atlanta, in a low-scoring game. But Patriots just, kind of played pretty well against Buffalo. So it's like, who knows who could win this game? I actually think that New England, wins it. I think Belichick is still trying to make these guys play. So I'm going to say that, New England wins, and I think it's low scoring. It's going to be like a 17-14 or 17-13 game. If I'm being honest. Moving on, we have Atlanta and New Orleans. Another game that holds playoff implications. If Atlanta wins, and the Buccaneers lose, I believe that they hold some sort of advantage over them, if I remember correctly, or something. They did beat them, I'm pretty sure, earlier this year. Let me check it real quick. So yeah, it was a 29-25 loss, but then they won 16-13 earlier in the year. So yeah, they're tied, but I'm pretty sure the Falcons can still win the division theoretically, assuming that, we have the Bucks and they lose to Carolina, which I just, I wouldn't even get hopeful if I was a Falcons fan. I'm not going to lie. But then you also have the Saints, who they just beat Tampa. And I mean, I guess, let me see this. And they just beat Tampa, but they lost to them earlier in the year. But I'm pretty sure that they also can. Wait, what does the playoff picture look like? Oh, for whatever reason, they say that the Saints that threw me off are first in the NFC South, which isn't true. They are. But the Buccaneers, if they lose, they have less than a 1% chance to get into the playoffs, I guess. And if they win, they're pretty much a lock. That's the only thing about the NFC, is that if the Packers and the Buccaneers both win, that's pretty much who's going to be the final two spots in the playoffs. Seeing as the Buccaneers are obviously, their division is just tightly knit. Besides the Panthers, you just have, that happening. But the Falcons, Saints, God, it's hard to say who's going to win. The Falcons just kind of took a pummeling from Chicago. I am going to take the Saints, I think, just because I don't care if it's Heineke or Ritter. They both throw picks. And it is going to be really, really loud at the Superdome in New Orleans. So I'm going to go with the Saints, because I think that overall they're just the more veteran team. I think that they are the scrappier team. I think the Falcons they don't consistently perform. So there's no reason to believe, for me, that they can come off of a pretty gut-wrenching loss. A team that they maybe could have possibly beat, but Chicago has been playing well lately. And then New Orleans going and toppling Tampa Bay, that had been very hot. I mean, that's something to be said. I'm going to go with New Orleans. I think that they score 24 points, and I think that the Falcons, they score 13. I don't think that they have too much talent to not get held to less than one touchdown and then, a couple of field goals or something like that. But yeah, I'm going with the Saints for this game. Moving on, we have Jacksonville and Tennessee. Now, Jacksonville obviously still holding their own fate. after having a ton of losses and then shutting out Carolina 26-0 in their house. Now they are traveling to Tennessee. They are 5-2 away record. Tennessee just suffering a pretty tough loss to Houston against a team where they obviously kind of fell victim to the Stroud comeback party where it's like, oh yeah, this guy's coming back. Jacksonville looked better. I think that they should hold Trevor Lawrence out for this game. I guess I don't even know. Do they say playoff Matt Simple for his Jaguars beat the Titans? I don't know if he's playing. I'm not gonna lie. So let me see here. They don't say anything in this article, but it's going to be an interesting game. I think the Jaguars did fine with their backup. I think that Doug Peterson, I think he knows, a good thing when he sees it. And it's not like, obviously Carolina's not the greatest of teams, but it's still not easy to shut out and score 26 points in the NFL. So looking at this game, I'm going to say, since Jacksonville does so well against the run, and I mean, you don't have Will Levis is still questionable. It seems like his injury is pretty bad. So it's they may not play him. Yeah, and if that's the case, I don't see Tannehill doing anything, to be honest. So I'm going to go with Jacksonville over Tennessee, and I'm going to predict 23-17. Because I think that, Tennessee's not going to be held, as low as they were last week. When, the Jaguars still, they're only coming off of a 1-game win and then a bunch of losses before, so they don't have a head of steam or anything. But yeah, Jacksonville wins this game. Moving on, we have Seattle and Arizona. Seattle, having started off the season really hot, I'm not gonna lie, they need to win this game to have a shot at the playoffs, and they just lost to Pittsburgh. They didn't look terrible, don't get me wrong. It was a close game, but they were just inevitably outscored. It seems crazy to think that they lose to Pittsburgh, but they beat Philadelphia. But that just goes to show how, skitty that Philadelphia's end of the season has been. Skitty, I mean, maybe it's a train wreck, to be honest. But looking at the Cardinals, they just came off an impressive win from the Eagles as well. And with that, I think that, the Cardinals, they're playing with spunk, and Kyler Murray looks way more focused and playing a lot better than, I think a lot of people would think that when he came back. I think that it was his backup against the wall is what's continuing to have him play really well. But looking to this game, I kind of expect Seattle to maybe flop, to be honest with you. Who knows? And I'm going to say that they lose this game, because I think that their run defense isn't terrible, but I think that, the Cardinals aren't going to throw it a ton, not giving the strength of the Seahawks defense to really pick them off. So yeah, I'm gonna say Cardinals win, actually, and I'm gonna say 28-20, because the Seattle offense just hasn't put itself together this year. It's so mind-boggling with how much talent they have. It reminds me of the Browns or something like that. But it's I feel like they're maybe even more talented than the Browns, to be honest. Of years past, where it's oh yeah, we have, Chubb and Cooper leading the way with Njoku or whatever, and maybe that's the difference, is that they just have wideouts, and Kenneth Walker's a very solid running back, but but the quarterback play just hasn't really been there. Gino's been hot, and then he's been not, and it's just like, I mean, what version of the Seahawks are you going to get this year? It's why they're 8-8, in my opinion. It's why they're 8-8. So game goes to the Cardinals because I think that they're just playing with a lot of flair and spunk since Murray came back. It makes me wonder if they would have been what their record would have been if he played the whole year. But yeah, that's my take on this game. Cardinals win against the Seahawks, and an embarrassing loss in their season, and then the Seahawks have to think about, oh, what do we do, for next year for the draft. Coming down to our next 4:00 game, we have the Bears visiting Lambeau Field and my Green Bay Packers. As everybody knows, my Packers are a winning in. There is no, misconception there. Obviously, with a 9-8 record, you're a bottom of the tier wild card unless the Rams lose. Yeah, let me check this real quick. Unless the Rams lose their game and they fall to 9-8, because right now they're 9-7. They do play San Fran, who needs to keep playing in order to make sure that they hold on to the 1 seed, I'm pretty sure, even though, yeah, they need to keep on playing to hold on to the 1 seed, because I think the Lions and I don't think the Cowboys can, because the Niners hold the tiebreaker for that. But the Lions, I'm pretty sure, can still go and, take the 1 seed, which is crazy, which is another reason why I think that they're beating the Vikings. But we're obviously on this game, and Bears-Packers. But the concerns, I guess, I have for my team is if Elgton Jenkins doesn't play, if the only other injuries that I've had that are kind of substantial, I guess, to my Packers of guys, there's nobody else to me that is as huge of a out as huge of an out as Elgton Jenkins, our left guard. And that isn't any criticism towards the rest of them, but the O-line of the Packers has improved vastly since the beginning of the season, where there was a lot of penalties. They were shooting themselves in the foot with false starts, holds, even illegal man downfield, which I feel like the league was kind of, punished for. But yeah, the amount of injuries that the Packers have as well is kind of mind-boggling. Like, obviously, there's a few things. I guess Watson, they say, was practicing, and he did not practice today. He practiced Wednesday and Thursday, but then not today, I guess. Maybe rest or something. And obviously, he's missed time. Not to take from him, but I think that Jordan Love has shown that he can work with just about anybody. If they get open, he's getting them the ball. And, he's trusting him even in tight situations as well. But I guess McDuffie being doubtful is kind of bad with the concussion and the neck injury he suffered last week when we sacked Mullins, sorry. Or Hall, gosh, I'm sorry. It's kind of a blur of last week who was, playing, because it was just kind of a mess for them. Rudy Ford is out, unfortunately. Yeah, Luke Musgrave, I guess they say he's still on IR here, but you also have Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, but I feel like, Romeo Doubs has been playing well, Bo Melton has been playing well, and then you also have Malik Heath, who's been playing well, which, goodness, if you told me that Love would have had such insane games when you're diving this deep into the depth chart, I would have, called you crazy mid-season. But now he's turned it around and been one of the best quarterbacks of the second half of the season. or I guess maybe the end of the season, probably not even the second half, to be honest. But the thing with the Bears is that the only thing that I've noticed that is maybe problematic for them is that Jalen Johnson, their really skilled and really good young corner, is doubtful. So even if he plays, he has a shoulder injury, which is not good because he is one of the highest graded corners based on like the QBR rating, QBR when he is thrown to. So he, him being out, I think, is a blow to them. And then you look at the rest of the team and it's like there is an injury. Darnell Mooney is out. He hasn't, he's been hurt. And then DJ Moore has an ankle injury, so he is questionable, but there is no doubt to me that he plays. But looking at this game, obviously, it brings back flashbacks to last year, how my Packers were eliminated by getting beat by the Lions. And it has similar vibes, except for the sense that it's a repeat year. And I think that with the whole season having transpired, instead of playing, because we played the Lions, it was late in the year, and then it was a couple weeks later, and it was essentially kind of the same game where it's like, oh man, they're really putting Rodgers off his mark. But with the way that Love has been throwing it, targeting, reading the field, I feel like the Bears, this is going to be a true test for them because they have been getting a lot of turnovers recently. But you look at the teams they've played on their last 5. Atlanta, who, I'll be honest, they are a turnover machine on offense. Arizona, I wouldn't say they're a turnover machine, but they just don't have the personnel to make it blow you out. Cleveland, Cleveland, Detroit, and then Minnesota. Minnesota, obviously, we can see has, kind of been susceptible to turnovers. But, overall, I think they haven't really went up this, like, elite level style of quarterback. And, I mean, you could say that Joe Flacco's playing elite, but it has only been at the end of this season. So I wouldn't, just instantly throw him back into an elite tier quarterback. And obviously, with this talk, people are probably thinking so you're thinking Jordan Love is automatically an elite tier quarterback, even though it's only been these last 2 games. And to me, the difference is that Jordan Love is getting it done with everyone on the depth chart. There really isn't a wide receiver that hasn't been incorporated. Let me look at the depth chart here really quick and let me be like, oh, okay, this is the guy who hasn't, you haven't heard of, type of thing. But looking at this, let's look at this. Samori Toure, maybe a little bit, hasn't been incorporated too much, even though I know he's had a couple receptions. And then looking at the wide receivers, it's been Reed, Dobbs, Bo Melton, Malik Heath, Christian Watson hurt. Dontavian Wicks has been kind of banged up these last couple of weeks. I guess AJ Dillon, did they rule out or something? They kind of have him. They have him on the depth chart as out. January 5th, let me see here. Oh, they did rule AJ Dillon out. So, yeah, Christian Watson is questionable. Jaden Reed, questionable. Luke Musgrave is questionable. Dontavian Wicks is also questionable. Isaiah McDuffie, doubtful because of his concussion and neck injury. And then Preston Smith is also questionable. But I feel like with the season on the line, the only 2 off of these that are definitely going to miss are Rudy Ford and AJ Dillon. And possibly Luke Musgrave, because obviously a lacerated kidney with him, But overall, I think that this is a team that has shown that they can perform, and I feel like even if AJ Dillon is missing from the depth chart, yeah, that kind of hurts the short yardage situations. But I still feel like if Aaron Jones is fully healthy, he can do good in short yardage situations. He's a smaller guy, but he is also hard running and quick. So it's like, I feel like it's a blow. Obviously, Aaron Jones, you don't want him to get banged up too much, especially before the postseason, because if we lose him, it's going to put a lot more pressure on Love, which, don't get me wrong, I think he's been doing really well with pressure lately, but, come playoff time, that's when it gets down to the nitty gritty, really. And there's a lot of things that, a young quarterback like him, hasn't seen. Because that's when, D coordinators pull out their secret weapons, essentially. But looking at this, I think that, the team will be better slated to deal with Fields than in week 1. I think in week 1, he kept the game close. He didn't throw for a ton of yards. He did scramble quite a bit, which the Packers have kind of proven they're susceptible to. But I really hope that Barry learned from last week that he can do these blitz packages and put pressure on the quarterbacks, because I think the Bears are dangerous offensively. I think they have good weapons. I think that Fields is crazy underrated, and that it shouldn't even be talked about that they're taking a quarterback. To be honest with you, it is a disrespect to him, and it really just what is the word I'm looking for? To me, it shows a disrespect through the struggles that he has had to work through and overcome. Because I personally think that, next to Lamar Jackson, he is probably the next most athletic and has a very similar play style that, if molded, he could be one of the best in the league. I'm always scared against him. On any given play, it looks like, a guy's going to get a hand on him. No, he's gone, and he's running for 10 yards. And it's like, it'll only get better if he gets weapons. I think that if this team is smart, maybe they don't trade the number overall pick, but they take Marvin Harrison Jr., so that they have a very solid core, and then they invest in O-line and a little bit more defensive talent. Because I think the Bears are on the cusp of being a very serious team, and that it could be the Bears, the Lions, and the Packers all duking it out for the North next year, to be honest with you. But looking at this game, I think looking at this game, I fully expect it to be kind of a close game. And thinking about it, I'm gonna go with, oh my gosh, sorry. Looking at this game, I am going to go with, my Packers, because I do think it's their game to lose at Lambeau. And I'm going to go with a score of 31-24. I think it'll be like a one-score game. I don't think it's going to be some crazy one field goal type thing, to be honest with you, but it could be wrong. And, we'll see you Sunday, Packers. Moving on, we have Kansas City and the Chargers. Now, Kansas City is playing potentially to, I guess, maybe not move up a spot. I don't know what the scenarios are with the Chiefs, but they could still be the 2 seed, which means that if by some fluke the Ravens don't make it past their divisional round matchup, whatever that may be, that they could have home field advantage. And to me, it would be just like the Chiefs to make a struggling season look very interesting come playoff time. I guess I don't know. The Chiefs, I'm pretty sure, did beat the They did beat the Bills, I'm pretty sure. So if the Bills win and they secure that division over the Dolphins, then yeah, the Chiefs I think are the number 2, and then the Bills are the number 3. I think, if that's correct. I don't think, Dolphins Chiefs definitely didn't happen this year. I think I would have remembered a game like that, to be honest. But yeah, looking at this game, obviously the Chargers, they're kind of playing for pride. They don't really have much of a reason to play. Oh, I guess, no, that's right. The Chiefs aren't playing Mahomes. Oh, so maybe they are locked into their spot, into their 3 spot. Let me look at this again. Because obviously with the 4 spot, you've got the goodness, I'm really confused because the AFC South, they're all 9-7. So however, there's going to be at least one winner of those games, and there's going to be 10-7, which is the same. I guess could be the same as the Chiefs, but they must not be worried. So okay, they're probably locked in at 3. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but yeah, because Blaine Gabbert is making the start. It's not that Mahomes is even injured. But yeah, they're not playing Rice, Donovan Smith, Kadarius Toney, or L'Jarius Sneed. So interesting. So I'm kind of they still give the favor to the Chiefs, but I think the Chargers win. I think, it's at their home. I think that it's going to be kind of a grudge game, where, they played the Chiefs a while ago and lost. But yeah, I think the Chargers probably win just because, their interim head coach is going to have these guys playing. They've been playing, I would say better. I wouldn't say it's, obviously last week, notwithstanding, where they got handed by a Denver team that didn't even play very well, but they played well against Buffalo. Obviously against Las Vegas, they didn't play very well. I guess they haven't really been playing well lately under this guy, but they did stick with Buffalo. And I mean, Blaine Gabbert, God, this is such a weird week to predict some of these games. But you know what? I'm just going to go. I'll go with the Chiefs. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I think they're better coached. I think that Blaine Gabbert, might be able to look like Chad Henne or something at least, who was serviceable. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs, and I'm just going to say 17-14. I have no idea what to think is going to happen in this game, to be honest with you. Moving on, we have Denver and Vegas. Neither team can make the playoffs. Does Vegas even want to win, to be honest with you? I guess they're predicting that they do win here. You have Jacobs, Crosby, Michael Mayer. Questionable for the game. We all know that Max Crosby is going to go. The Raiders just lost a gut punch against Indianapolis when they were still, possibly vying for, very low percentage to get into the playoffs, obviously. But it's kind of insane looking at this game. I'm just going to go with the Raiders. They probably don't care about the pick too much, to be honest with you. Looking at Denver, obviously they're playing Stidham, and then you've got Aiden O'Connell. They did play a decent game last week, and then they beat Kansas City and then the Chargers the week before. So it's like, I don't know. I'm just going to predict the game in favor of the Raiders, and I'm going to say that they win this game. I'm going to win this. They're going to win this game 20-13 is what I'll call, I guess, because I really don't think Stidham's going to stand much of a chance against Crosby in this defense, to be honest with you. Moving on, we have Philadelphia and the New York Giants. Obviously, Philadelphia stumbling a lot lately. where, they do give this game to the Eagles by a very, very large margin and a 5.5 point, swing. But they need to get help to win the NFC East. That's kind of interesting to me. Let me look at this real quick. So the Eagles are a lock, and I guess because of the Cowboys like divisional kind of matchup type of thing in here, they need help, which it's kind of bizarre to me. The Eagles should have won this division in all honesty, and obviously because of the Lions game, the Cowboys took the division. Maybe that karma comes to bite them in the ass, and when they play, Washington this week, who knows? But maybe there's a lot of, maybe Washington will have some sort of like hate, thinking that like, oh, this team's actually pretty soft, let's beat them, final week of the season and like ruin their playoff berth. But and had a 2-game lead in the race for the NFL's best record. Interesting. So yeah, the Eagles were 10-1, and now with 1-4 these last games, it's kind of insane. But the Eagles have Devonta Smith and Darius Slay questionable, whereas the Giants, they have Deonte Banks doubtful, Jason Pinnock, the safety, out, and John Michael Schmitz Jr., the center, is questionable, with Tyrese Phillips, their tackle, on IR. The Giants actually held it close against a Rams team that, like, I didn't think there was a shot in hell that the Giants would compete with, a pretty hot Rams team, in all honesty. So look into this. I'm going to have to say, I do think Philadelphia wins. I think it's going to be another unpretty win, and I'm going to give them the victory with 28 points to 24. Because New York has proven, I guess, that they're spunky. And DeBoll still has it with a struggling team. I think he's such a undermined, brilliant coach, even though he won Coach of the Year last year. Moving on, we have Rams and San Fran. We know that turn to some reserves heading into low impact finale. So what is going on here? They say so they're still gonna play Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Deebo Samuel, and Kittle, guys, on the Niners, and they're gonna be starting Sam Darnold, who I'll say in their crushing defeat to the Ravens didn't look half bad. He was making some good throws. Yeah, you could say it was garbage time, but some of them, they were pretty good throws. He looked locked in. He looked way better, having been under Shanahan's tutelage this year. But the Rams are resting Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, running back Kyren Williams, and linebacker Ernest Jones. And you look at this, and it's kind of interesting, but they're obviously... But yeah, Puka Nacua is not resting. Interesting. So yeah, so interestingly enough, it's like the Rams are playing Wentz, and I'm sorry, but Wentz, I'm sure he's going to go out and he's going to try and prove so that he can compete for a job, because he seems to be one of those guys that won't go away. And then they're like, oh, is there something to look at here? Oh, is there something to look at over here, guys? I think he's going to perform. I think Puka Nacua sets the record where he beats gosh, is it Jalen Waddle's rookie record of 104 catches in 2021. And looking at this, though, I think that San Fran takes it. Darnold is still going to have Debo and Kittle, and then Trent Williams, blocking for him. And then Nick Bosa's still playing, who's going to try and get after, Wentz, who, I mean, I'm sure he's still pretty mobile. He was a pretty mobile quarterback, and it's part of his game, excuse me. But, I'm going to give the game to the Niners. I think that Darnold outplays Wentz. He's got a better QB whisperer on that team. I think that McVay, don't get me wrong, McVay is a good coach, but I wouldn't say he's as much of a QB whisperer. Otherwise, he would have, handled Goff better. And I think that San Fran takes this, and they're also at home. So looking at this, I'm going to say that it's, maybe it's going to be a little bit of a scrappier game, and I'm going to say San Fran wins 21-17. 21-17. So, moving on, I think that's the end of the list for the games. Let me see. Oh, we have Dallas and Washington. Dallas traveling to Washington. Now, the funny thing about this is that Dallas is 3-5 on the away, but but Washington is 1-6 at home. So it's kind of like, man, maybe we can improve our away record on Dallas to 4-5. They give them a 13-point favorite. I guess that's kind of realistic. You have Jonathan Allen is out for this game. Yeah, I don't know what I was saying earlier with them possibly winning. Jonathan Allen was kind of necessary to be a piece if he was to have some huge game and, help them win. But looking at this game, God, I mean, the Commanders, lost to San Fran on the 31st, in a game where it's like, it wasn't even close, but they competed with the Jets. They competed with the Rams. They didn't compete with Miami or Dallas the last time they met. They had a really, really late bye week, I guess, and then they've been kind of competing since then, but against a team like San Fran, they got whooped. Maybe they can do something crazy against the Cowboys, but I kind of doubt it. I don't think Scary Terry's going to be able to overcome just the secondary, and then it's like the pass rush is probably going to murder the Commanders. I hate to say it, you guys, is my last prediction for the regular season of the 2023-24 season, but I am going to predict the Cowboys win. And even if the Commanders keep it close, I'm going to say it's going to be a 24-20 game. And then 24-20. And if it's not a good game, Cowboys score 28-6 is what I'll say. Because this gives me major Cowboys versus Giants vibes. Just a different letter, and I guess a different place. Oh my God, it's bad. But yeah, those are my predictions for week 18 of the 2024 or 2023-2024 season, you guys. I did kind of ramble on there. I guess this is a longer video, but maybe you have some time to watch it, and I thank you all for watching. So you guys, if there's anybody in here watching and they want to talk about the games or what they think or whatever else, the Cowboys, I mean, Celine, no bark. Celine, no bark. No bark. Hey! Hey, no bark! Celine! Sorry, you guys, 1 second. Celine! Hey, Celine! Come here! You know better. No! No, get down. You can't be up there if you're gonna bark. You can't be doing that. He was dropping off a package. You don't need to be barking that much. Bark once and then that's it, okay? Okay? Ugh. All right. So overall, kind of a bizarre week for games. A lot of playoff scenarios that I'm not going to go over, in all honesty. And I think that it's going to be an exciting postseason. But I think that we really know who the teams to beat are in each conference, to be honest. It's the only thing I can say. The Niners being the team in the NFC, where it's like I thought that the Eagles would be a team, and I mean maybe even Dallas is a team to beat. But they proved they're susceptible. When they played the Lions, even though they lost, it's like it was not a very clean game for them. If you guys have nothing really to say, I'm going to end it there. And I want to thank you guys for watching Cast. All right. I want to thank you guys for watching. And as always, go Pack Go.